Your Apple devices are about to cost more. Tim Cook said it himself this week. Price increases are coming, and there's nothing they can do about it. AI is eating the world's RAM supply. Some have dubbed it RAMnarök, and there's nothing Thor's going to be able to do about it. And your next iPhone is going to feel the heat. Meanwhile, Snap just launched a pair of AR glasses for just under $2,200. They look like something like your optician's most eccentric patient would wear. And people are already asking the question nobody at Snap wanted to hear: when will they be available to the public and even wearable in the public? Big tech, big prices, big questions. This is the Tech Hangout. Let's get into it. And this episode is sponsored by Chuck Joyner's Polo Collection, a collection so complete that even his PJs have collars. Let's do this.
Chuck, you should get into that. That is a business idea.
Was that in the script? I don't remember seeing that. What happened here? Where did that come from?
Yep. Well, like I said, welcome to the Tech Hangout. I would like to introduce our lovely panel today. Since they couldn't make it, I'll introduce who we have. First, our sometimes host, today engineer, Ms. Patrice.
Hi, today engineer, sometimes host. Okay, yeah. Hi. It's crazy. It's already been a week since we did the first show. So much has happened since then, but I'm very happy to be here. I'm roasting right now. There's a heat wave going on in Europe, and yeah, it's hot.
Hot like the prices.
Yeah, hot like the RAM prices. Definitely.
I'm going to mix it up a little bit here. Let's go with Mr. Chuck Joyner.
Hello, Ben.
Mr. Polo Shirt Collection.
Yeah,
how the tables have turned with me in the host seat.
Yeah, really. I noticed the little editorial comment there that was sort of. You warned us we're going to go off script, so that's fine. That's fine. I will look forward to hosting you next time on Mac Voices Live.
Revenge.
Yeah, and speaking of hosts, the man who hosts at least 7 podcasts a day, Mr. Marty Gensius.
What else is there to do? Come on.
True.
Somebody give me something more important to do than 7 podcasts a day. It's not 7 podcasts a day, by the way. I'm looking.
It's only 6.5.
Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6.5. This is Friday. I love Fridays. I get to put my feet up after this thing, and for medical purposes too. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the rest of the weekend.
Yes, just don't do it on camera. No, I take that back. Some people are into that.
Yeah.
And
we're streaming on the wrong network for that.
Yeah, it's my only feet. It's my only feet page. That people.
Jeez. Yes. And lastly, finally a professional, Mr. Dave Ginsburg.
How you doing, professional, Ben? What?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, maybe a bottle washer. But how you doing? Good to be here, Ben. Thanks.
Professional bottle
Okay.
washer. Depends on what was in the bottles, right?
Yes.
Oh boy.
And I'm trying to think of a segue into our stories, but I ain't got them.
No, let's go for the feed.
Yes.
Feed with a D.
Not the feet.
Yes.
Yes, with a D. Marty.
Yeah.
You know what? We're going to start with something funny today. Apple released a comedic video about Tim's last good morning. And we'll have our crack reporter, Chuck Joyner, tell us all about it.
I picked this story because it feels like it got so little attention And of course, at Dub, there's always a competition for attention. But this was Tim's last official public kind of thing, and I thought this seemed sort of in character, sort of not in character. It's sort of the character that Tim has evolved into. And I really, really like that about Tim, and because when he stepped in to fill Steve Jobs' shoes, he had to be pretty serious. He had to be terrified. I mean, in spite of his experience. And he has really evolved into someone that I think the majority of the Mac community really appreciates. He's got this subtle, self-deprecating kind of humor that he has done over time. Not just this video, but also the most recent one that resonates with me was the pit stop video he did for his golf cart that he uses on the Apple campus. And Patrice, that's it. You can can forget about these little things. They're cute. They're little throwaways, but they also show a pattern of humanizing the guy who is running this huge technology company. And it also says something, I think, about Apple's culture, that it allows and encourages this kind of self-deprecating humor, because they seem to be under the gun for so many things. If you haven't seen it, the one other point I want to make about it is that although it's not just Apple TV stars, there are a lot of Apple TV stars in there. And it won't take you long to watch. It's very short. And it's so, I think it's so well done. It's so much fun. You should go and check it out.
Yeah, I mean, it really was. And the whole culture, I think it goes back to the two Steves. Like, I mean, they were pranksters. They loved to, like, a good joke. And I think that goes like that persists to this day in the company, and you see it in here. I really like that. I mean, it's like basically the storyline for the ones who haven't seen it is like that the other, like the Apple TV stars and also I think stars in general are trying to come up with better ways of saying good morning, like Tim says, and Tim at the end says, "No, I'll stick with mine." Basically, and then says good morning, like he does always. So I really love that. It's a really fun little video.
There's a part of my cynicism here that's sort of like, okay, let's all laugh at Grandpa's jokes.
Or dad jokes.
Yeah.
But I think this was the quintessential Tim here. Yes. I mean, with him, you went with Apple, from an Apple that was basically revolving around one personality that famously got rid of a major GPU deal because AMD or ATI at the time accidentally leaked it to a laid-back Southerner who turned Apple into a more accessible, more collaborative place. I mean, we don't know what the Apple of John Turnus is going to be yet, but this is the culmination of over a decade of Tim's Apple.
He had to fight for so many years. What would Steve have done?
Yeah.
Until people finally let go of that. And that's when I think I can't speak for Tim, but that's when I think the culture changed at Apple in terms of being a more approachable, progressive kind of collaborative kind of business.
Yeah, and I think part of that had to be getting rid of some of Steve's stalwarts like Scott Forstall, who had shared Steve's personality.
I'm not so sure about
Tim,
that.
Yeah, but under Tim, Apple evolved. And I'm not talking about the success in the business and the products. I'm talking about just it grew up a little bit in some ways.
Yeah.
That Steve hadn't been allowed to let it, because first of all, Steve was so hard charging. But second, Steve came back at a time when Apple was in dire trouble. And he built it, and I'm not sure he ever got out of that mode. That he just had to keep pushing. And if you look back, there's some indications that would, I think, validate that he didn't do oh uh, I can't think of the term, but he didn't reward the shareholders. Okay, he didn't he hoarded the money within the
Yeah.
organization,
Yeah.
and that's fine. That's a very
You mean
legitimate
dividends?
approach. Dividends, thank you.
Yeah.
It's a very legitimate approach to management, but also in today's world, investors expect some returns at least along the way, instead of just the pure capital gains. So I feel like, yes, Apple under Tim evolved, matured a little bit, and I think it'll continue that way under John. Because what we lost with Steve was a definite loss, but there are other ways to grow other than just the way Steve grew it.
Yep. And I do believe John Turner's already announced there will not be as many dividends and buybacks as there were under Tim, if I remember right.
I didn't remember seeing that, Ben, but you could be right.
I don't think so, but Apple in their latest quarterly earnings, I think, hinted at that while they have approved the next buyback, they're also kind of closing in on where they want it to be. So this might be ending at some point, or they might simply not do it as scheduled as they've done it so
often.
Yeah.
And Dave, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. I just think the way they did things, it's going to change. There's no if and buts about it. So it's something we to adapt to. The culture is going to be different with Apple and when John takes over. There's going to be lots of differences. I've seen it in working in the corporate world when we've changed. And working with senior leadership. So that it's just like any company, you have to adapt. And it's as we all know, we're Apple cheerleaders, fans, like to watch, see how it goes, So
yeah, I think it's like everything. It's like every prediction of the future. Like it's more than we expect and less than we hope, as usual, the change, right? Because, or vice versa, if like some people don't want any change and you get more than that, other people think, oh, everything should change now. That's also not going to happen. It's usually like that. Like there's a balance. Like, I mean, the organization behind him has not changed that much, right? I mean, yeah, we had some, like especially higher level people leave, but like the people doing their jobs day to day and building new products and building new software and shipping that and selling it and marketing it and all of them, they're still there. They haven't changed. So you cannot expect that fundamentally September 2nd, because 1st is when he takes over, everything is completely different. No. Over time, he influences things and things change. And we saw that with Tim. It took quite a while to go from the, let's say, Steve Jobs Apple that Steve had left behind, to a Tim Cook Apple that Tim was fully influencing. And that's gonna be the same here. Like Tim's influence and Steve's influence and whatever will live on, but it will get steered in a different direction by whoever's at the helm at some point. But not today or tomorrow.
Tim made sure those changes were in place.
Yep.
Before John got up to the big job.
Yes. Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that if John were the wrong kind of leader, and if this was a different company, it doesn't mean that those changes couldn't be undone on day one.
100%.
Yeah.
So, but I don't see that.
It's not the type of person.
Well, and with Apple's successes that we've seen recently, and you could argue that there have been some failures too, and we won't go down that road. But where Apple stands in the market, it just feels like John would be kind of foolish to do major changes right now. Especially on day one. Let him move through, let him get his feet wet. Let's see how things are happening. There's another story that is on the agenda here that we'll talk about that is going to have to deeply affect how Apple approaches things. So, again, evolution.
Okay. And I don't want to make this seem like this is a completely Apple show. So I'll let Patrice tell us about a new hardware product from a company that nobody expected to ever make a hardware product.
Well, I mean, that's not true because they have done hardware in the past. Actually, specifically, they've done glasses in the past. Snap, the company behind Snapchat, has released their new AR glasses, the Specs, they're called. I linked to the article from Andy Anatko because it's one really, really good read, and he has some thoughts on them. But in general, they introduced their new, they're called Specs, SPECS. Uppercase for some reason because branding. They introduced them, and I don't know. I think they look silly. I mean, silly like also the Vision Pro looks silly when you wear them in public. I mean, I think people get used to it, so it's not a big deal. But these look proper silly. I think. They look like. They look like welding glasses or something you're wearing all day. So they're like really, really thick frames, not very stylish, very techy, I would call it, looking. Kind of like, I think, Andy wrote like Stevie Wonder, basically, like sunglasses like that, maybe.
I would say you put a striped hat on a person and a red and white striped hat and a red and white striped sweater, and you have found Waldo.
No. Waldos were even like not that thick. They're thicker than Waldos, like frames. They're also not exactly cheap. Like they're about $2,200 probably starting price. I would assume. Yeah. I would assume. But they are proper AR glasses. For me, the big question is now, who will wear them in public? Like, is there other than the of course the CEO? Who there's a picture in here. I'm like, yeah, looks silly. Looks very, very silly on his face. But okay, who's gonna wear them? Like, is there a market for them of people really wanting to wear them in public, or is that more a aspirational product less than a practical product? So not much details on like what they can do. They're standard AR glasses. They can do notifications and shit like that. It's like stuff like that.
It doesn't look like they can do anything more than what current Meta glasses can do.
Yep.
And current Meta glasses have kind of moved into Ray-Bans and Oakleys, so they have more style to them. And I have some of the earlier versions of AR or internet connected glasses that do look really dorky. And even had Google Glass. I had Google Glasses when they first came out. So Meta's already progressed into figuring out this has to have some style to it. The reality is there's nothing that Specs can do that isn't already available on Meta for a third of the cost.
Yeah.
So the silly part, I see plenty of people wearing things that I think are silly.
True.
That and not tech, not tech oriented, but just it's like really, you went out in public like that. I see people getting on planes in basically what I consider pajamas. And it's like,
Sure.
Or
underwear.
Or underwear, yes. So I'm kind of thinking that that's going to affect us at our age level and our not level of sophistication. That's a wrong thing, but the level of I guess self-awareness, experience. Okay, Ben, I'll take that one. So I don't know if that's going to affect the younger people. I think, frankly, it's going to be a lot more driven by function. Because even Vision Pro people, and I'm not picking on anybody here, and I mean that, I really mean that. But there are people that are wearing Vision Pros in public.
Yeah,
Now,
I do. I've
Yeah,
done
I
that.
can, and I can think.
I don't
yeah,
walk around with them, but I've done it.
Yeah, and I can think of some
Yes.
reasons, some practical reasons, like I don't want them ripped off my head and taken from me. But
Yep.
you know, they're not afraid to. You're not afraid to, Patrice. I doubt that Dave or Marty are, and that's fine. So I think the silliness factor is our reaction to it,
Yeah.
but you guys find the function in it, and that's the difference. If
Yeah.
these things become functional, whether it's Vision Pro or the snaps or something else, people are going to use it. It's just
Yeah.
to me that's the acid test.
Yeah, I mean, how many people who were laughing at the thought of white stems hanging out of your ears have them in right now?
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're right. It's style is in the eye of the beholder, right? And it's also a little bit generational and cultural and can change. I mean, the silly looking clothes from the 70s, like in the 80s and 90s, everybody was like, oh my god, this is so bad. And then they came back and everybody thought they were the best thing ever. It's like like tastes change. So who's to say this is not gonna be the same for this?
The difference is when I'm wearing a Vision Pro, when you're wearing a Vision Pro, it is quite clear that we're doing something, we're doing productivity or we're working.
Yeah.
These are meant to be walk around, take pictures, and post them to your Snapchat account. That's their primary function. And the ubiquitousness of glasses is what is, I think, going to drive it, which is why Apple is taking its time coming out with something that is productive, functional, and also ubiquitous. And Meta took a while to get there, so I can't tell if someone's wearing Ray-Bans or they're wearing Meta Ray-Bans. I do know if they're filming me because there's a flashing light. I do know if they're taking a picture of me. Some of the lessons that were learned from Google Glass that they've applied to it. But yeah, I still think developing wearable computing devices that are ubiquitous, like the glasses I have on now are my reading glasses.
Yeah.
That's people would not know if I had an AR or VR glasses on that looked like this in frame.
Yeah.
But I hate people, by the way, Chuck, I hate people on planes in pajamas.
Well,
I have students who show up to class in pajamas.
Yep.
My sister went to school in pajamas more than once, so yeah.
Yes.
And if I can make one more point on the style question, and I hear what you're saying, Patrice, but have you ever seen any of the videos like this year, last year, the last few years of Style Week in New York?
Yeah.
I mean, really?
Yeah.
Have you seen those? You know, it's like you want to talk about silly. These look just flat out conservative compared to some of that stupid stuff. So
as I said, it's always in the eye of the beholder, and what you think is silly is for others.
Right.
Yeah, I think beyond the silly look, the practical side, I'm also questioning, because I mean, like all four of us, I'm wearing contacts right now, but I have glasses as well. All four of us know the style and the comfort and like all of that is very important when you're wearing something in your face all day, right? You don't want it to, like when you look down, you don't want it to slide down and stuff like that. You don't want it to press it too hard against your head, because then you're going to get a headache at some point, and like all of that. And that's for me the bigger concern with these. They're one size fits all. Well, two sizes. They have two different sizes, but they're basically, this is the style, this is the weight, like 130 grams. So it's that like 200 something pounds. No, not 200 pounds. 0.2.
That's why they cost so much.
That would be a problem.
That would crush your neck.
0.2 pounds or something like that, probably. That sounds more reasonable. No, but anyway, they're not the lightest. Like, I mean, like normal glasses are quite light usually, depending on what you picked and what materials and whatever, but they're usually quite light and whatever. That was with the Vision Pro, and the Vision Pro is quite heavy. already a big concern, and they solved it in a different way. But these do not have any kind of head strap or whatever. They're more or less very, very thick looking glasses. So as I said, you look down and they're gonna fall down, shit like that. Or you're sweating, and they fall down, like slide down on your nose or anything like that. So I have my concerns on the practical side.
At least for the first generation.
For the first generation. No, I think in general. I mean, unless we get, and that's what Ray-Ban, for example, did. They started doing them in different styles, right? For that reason. They also they look more or less like normal Ray-Bans. So that I think helps.
Yeah, and they went into the Oakley line, which is kind of geared towards athletes.
Yeah.
So they can wear those kind of things. So they're really paying attention to style.
Yes. They did this year. I don't think so. I think that it was more like, okay, we need technology, so let's do that.
Yeah.
Well, going back to the privacy part of it. Sorry, not everybody's going to know that they're being recorded. Even though you say you see it, you know what to look for. That's what concerns me, because people are going to be on upward. Oh, you're recording me. I don't want you to do that. I mean, but obviously there's not much of a choice. You're in public. It is a public domain. You can't tell people yes or no. I mean, it's like you pull out your phone and record somebody. So I've always been that concerned with that, as far as not knowing if you are being recorded, because it's not a normal thing that people react to watch for. Am I being recorded? I mean, you blatantly know when someone has their phone up recording, but so that's going to take a little time to adjust to that. And I also have to ask the question, Marty, did you buy those glasses?
What, those? No, hell no. Did I buy these glasses? Yeah, but no,
I know. I meant this,
and I'm not going anywhere
glasses.
near those things for that price. That's crazy. And
that's good.
But I agree with your concern, Dave, about the privacy concern, which is why I've stopped touching myself in public, because you never know when someone's going to record you.
Okay.
Wow. And with that, I'm sure we will discuss this in the future, especially when it comes to cultural norms between Gen Z and Gen Alpha in earlier generations. But now that we've talked about Patrice's glasses, let's get out Marty's crystal ball and talk about what Apple has in store for the coming year.
Yeah, this is a 9to5 Mac article, and I just thought, trying to get something that we might discuss. It is a review of, and again, it's rumors, it's projections on a lot of things, but it's a review of the different things that in the next year are projected to be on Apple's device. I'm getting kind of hungry for some hardware from Apple. The big thing is foldable phone. Looks like that's in the future. Smart home expansion and doing some things. I think they've handled smart home pretty poorly in a lot of ways, and they're losing in that market. Smart glasses, maybe not next year, maybe a year in the spring. And AI being involved and integrated into everything. Looking at new Macs and new iPads, possibly with the M5, with the iPads put in, or M6 Macs could be part of the what's being expected, and then watches, other types of wearables, cameras in earbuds or in AirPods. I just thought it was pretty remarkable. If this all comes true, Apple is going to be really busy and kind of reminisce back to the days where the big thing was, what new phone are we going to get this year? And maybe they're going to come out with a different laptop that has, or a desktop that has a new processor in it, essentially. They have their hands, if this comes true, they have their hands in a lot of stuff. And not on the list is a car, and not on the list are other products that people are wishing Apple with like a refrigerator. We need an Apple refrigerator.
Wait,
Yes.
wait, Marty, you're saying
Yeah.
that Project Titan and Gene Munster's TV are not going to happen?
I would guess so.
Yeah.
It's
What
time
about
for you
the
to
Apple
give up
brain
hope.
implant?
Yeah.
I can't help this.
So
I'm sorry.
I'm
Go ahead,
just
Marty.
curious.
Sorry, I'll let you finish.
I'm just curious with what your reaction is when you look at this list, and maybe which one you're most excited about, if any.
I would love to see something in the smart home area. I don't know that Apple has lost the market. I think the market has lost the public. Because I mean, every
Yes.
time, Matter and Threads were supposed to make everything, perfect, except for this little thing over here. And inevitably you run into that. And there's also now all of a sudden privacy is in every conversation. And so much of the smart home stuff, does have privacy effects. Cameras, microphones in our homes, and even outside of our homes. I have not experienced it myself because most of my neighborhood has a smart doorbell, but I know there are places where people get really uncomfortable if my house is pointing at Marty's house and I can see what's going on outside of Marty's house and maybe through the windows. And of
You
course,
don't
You
want
now
don't
to
we
want to
that.
see what's going on through the windows.
well, yeah. But and now and now it's not even 1080p cameras. Now we have 2K and 4K, doorbells. And
Yeah.
so the quality of the surveillance is getting better. So, I would love to see Apple break back into that market in a big way, address some of those things and help me build a true Apple home ecosystem that I could feel comfortable with. Because right now I feel like every time I plug something in or use a device, I'm kind of looking at it sideways thinking, yeah, what else are you doing down there? So
And with products like Amazon's Ring, that is definitely a valid concern.
Yes. Yeah.
Very.
Yeah. I mean,
I just changed out my Ring doorbell, Ben. I've not because I was quite that paranoid about it, but it's like that was a factor in not doing an upgraded Ring, of going to another vendor.
yeah.
Yeah.
I,
went
I'm
by
with
your
you.
suggestion.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I went by your suggestion, Chuck, and I went with the Eufy, and I'm loving it.
That's what I switched my main doorbell to, so
That's my first one.
yeah, and I'm more comfortable with it, which frankly was kind of a surprise because I didn't think I was that concerned to start with, but apparently I was and didn't even know it.
Yeah, I think Chuck, you're right. I mean, the home market. I think everybody, like, people like us, we're probably still very much into the home automation stuff and have cameras, what we just talked about, and all of that. I literally just like installed new stuff on my balcony. But I think for the most part, the hype has moved on. I mean, there was like, I remember CESs, and I mean, you were there, Chuck, where like it was like home automation everywhere. Like everything was home automation. We've moved on from that. And I think the market hasn't caught up with what's possible. It's not that people aren't, as I said, there's a lot of people that aren't into home automation or anything like that, but have a video doorbell or have like little things here or there, like have a smart, let's call it a smart thermostat or something like that. But the bigger picture and the more interesting stuff hasn't caught on. So on one hand, I'm like, yeah, it would be cool if Apple finally paid attention to it again, because they kind of started it, or at least pushed it quite heavily with Apple Home and everything they did there. And then they kind of, and HomePods, Thread and Matter were heavily pushed by them at some point, and they just forgot about it or didn't pay attention, at least as much attention to it from what we can see. Maybe internally they were working on stuff. So on one hand, I'm like, yeah, that would be cool. On the other hand, I'm like, what can Apple do that will change that? And I'm not so sure they can.
Depending on how, Patrice, I think we are at a critical point here, because it's just a matter of time before AI makes greater inroads into our homes.
Yeah.
Whether we like it or not, it's coming.
Yes.
And Apple has the opportunity to grab that bull by the horns and become
Yeah.
a definitive part
Yes.
of that, while adding to an already trusted Apple ecosystem. So it has the potential to pull more people in. And we already have the HomePods. Okay, and I know Jeff's not here to hit me over that, but Apple's already here a little bit now
Yes.
with the what are we calling it now? The ASI,
SAI.
SAI. Sorry,
SAI,
SAI.
Siri bot. Yes.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it. If that lives up to the hype that all the early reports seem to be very favorable, they could really do something with this, and then satisfy Marty's thirst for new hardware.
Yeah. No, you're right. That's
I can't do home automation. I don't have a partner who I live with who gets it or wants to use it
exactly
and sees the value of it.
Yeah.
So
that is
second
actually...
life maybe, but not this one.
No, I think this is exactly the problem. Like for the normal people, it is too fiddly, too complicated, too techy. But I think to your point, Chuck, that's exactly what Apple can bring. If they can fundamentally a different approach to home automation. So far it's been, put in this plug or this thing here or that there, and then you can program it. Like that was the idea, right? And it was always the intention, but the programming is really easy, but you still needed to understand basic logic and stuff like that to even get the simple things done. I mean, is that everybody tried to make it simple and have, here's a starter recipe, or here's like one click and it will do certain things for you, whatever. But it was always too technically driven. With AI, it can be like, you don't have to program anything. It watches you do your normal things, and then it helps you do it. And you just tell it and say, hey, can you make sure the lights are turned off at night or something like that? And it's like, yeah, sure, I can do that.
Well, and at the risk of beating on the point, we saw demonstrations at the WWDC keynote, and the point was made that, shortcuts, I don't need to program a shortcut anymore. I can just say, hey, I want to build a shortcut that does this. It'll write it for me, and I've got it. And if you can take that script and instead of shortcut put in home automation, oh boy, now we got something.
But ideally, you don't even see that. You don't see shortcuts. You don't see Apple Home. You don't see any like that. You literally just interact with your Siri bot and say, dear Siri bot, please do this, or please remember to do that, or whatever. And it just in the background figures it out, and it might use those tools, but it doesn't. You never see it. Because I think that is for the normal people. Like, I mean, we want to see it. We want to see the script. We want to see the shortcut. But for most normal people, they're like, nope. I just want the light to turn off when I leave or at night or whatever.
And I think we're saying the same thing, just differently. I'm not. Would I be happy if? Well, look, whether it's the
S-bot,
whether it's S-bot or AI or just plain old machine learning. Now my car and my phone have learned that when I leave at a certain time, it asks me, am I going here? Am I going there? I wouldn't be opposed to that, as long as that doesn't become obnoxious. I wouldn't be opposed to having somebody's listening. I would have
we have
be
Cindy
opposed to the I wouldn't be opposed to the suggestions. But I do think that I would be happy saying, I want a shortcut, or I want home automation, whatever you call it, that turns on the bathroom light at a certain time, or that turns on the outside the outside lights from 8 to 11, or whatever. That and not, I don't have to see the script. You might want to look at it just to see what it's doing. I just want to know that that's what it did. And it does it for me.
Exactly.
And I would like to apologize to the audience, because if they don't have these in, we just made their Apple off devices go off 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Yes.
Probably so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else looking forward to something in the coming year?
I'm just gonna. I want new stuff, and whatever is new, I will be happy with.
Yep. I will end this by saying I am still on an M1 Pro. I love this thing like it's my baby,
Oh.
but it's time.
So M6 for Ben.
Yes, give me some OLED.
Foldable phone.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm in line for that.
I might be. Yes.
Marty, why?
Yeah.
So I
More
want to see
space.
what Apple does with that platform or that
Okay.
that structure. You know, and you know this, Chuck, and the rest of you know this. I've tried other companies' versions of this, and they have been unsatisfying for me, primarily because I'm not in the Apple ecosystem. And Apple has been touted as kind of, why don't they put one out? Why don't they? I think they're going to put one out. I think it's going to be pretty damn good, and it's going to be in the Apple ecosystem for me. So any of the faults or problems or even a crease, I will overlook because I'm going to be in my world and not trying to play in somebody else's.
Marty, that's a really interesting point. That you weren't in the Apple ecosystem. I don't know that I've heard you verbalize it exactly that way.
Yeah, I kept telling myself I wanted to see if I could do it over there, and I just can't do it over there.
Wow. I'm going to make a note of that.
Yes. And talking about subjects that I just can't do it. We will now have Dave here to give us a special report on Microsoft.
Well, I got an article there.
Microsoft's Copilot chatbot in business and health.
Yeah. So I'm kind of give a little spin between that and some of my work experience I've had this past week because it's fresh in my mind here. Of course I'm on the wrong notes. That doesn't help.
When has that ever stopped us?
Yeah. This was interesting to see, and this is more just another example of what the way that things are going with LLMs and chatbots AI. This article was discussing the fact that people are flooding AI chatbots with health questions, and I think we've been doing that for years. We've been Googling health questions and, of course, getting unsatisfactory results.
It's cancer.
Yeah, exactly.
Dr. Copilot.
But at least now you have the LLMs being smart and saying don't take this verbatim. Please consult with your doctor. But
they're also better at it, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's that too. But Microsoft, surprisingly enough, Microsoft of all companies and Mayo Clinic, I would have thought it'd been OpenAI or Anthropic or one of the other bigger. No, they decided to go with Microsoft. Well, because it's Mayo Clinic. Mayo Clinic works very closely with Microsoft.
Any big organization like that does. Yes.
Yeah, I forgot, Patrice, you're in this health industry, so you can help me with this a little bit too.
Yeah.
Having data records, research, the expertise of the hospitals, information is huge, and they're going to do their own model, and I think that's where we're going to see the trends here because and I was going to talk a little bit about the data center uproar, especially here in the United States. I think it's worldwide of the fact that data centers are just killing our power grid and our natural resources and all that. So, but having these types of models, I would not be all surprised seeing more and more companies are going to start doing that. Because it puts the resources into the company, not to depend on as much. We depend so much on cloud, with Microsoft, you're in Azure, and Google and all the others. You're very dependent on them. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean that's one part, and like without going into like what my company is doing, because like I don't want
Same.
shouldn't talk about that. But in general, like it's like using an LLM for specialized tasks like that is like you're using a screwdriver to drill a hole, right? I mean, yeah, you could probably get it done. Yes, it might work. It's not gonna be pretty. It's a universal tool, an LLM like that, like a ChatGPT or whatever. Once you go into specialized fields, it's just more effective and faster, and usually also better quality to have a special trained models like that, because like you're not gonna, or you shouldn't ask a medical LLM about I don't know what screwdriver to buy, because we were just with screwdrivers, because I mean, yes, it could with a normal LLM you can ask anything you want and it's gonna find an answer for that, but that's not the purpose of this model. You want to ask it medical questions, so it shouldn't even look at screwdrivers and all of that. It should be like, okay, zero in on this topic and this area and say, but be really fast and really high quality in this specific area, and have some specialization for that, basically. So yeah, that makes sense, and it's also more cost effective, more better for the environment, all of that. So yeah, makes sense, and of course it's Microsoft because. No, it's like big organizations, hospitals. They're usually Microsoft shops, like basically most big companies are.
Right, and big companies are meeting with Microsoft directly.
Yeah.
I mean, you got CIOs and
Yes.
other folks go right to Redmond
All the time.
They're talking. We need help.
Yeah.
We need help.
Yeah.
We have to get this done.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to spin this to the user experience, and that's where I'm in that challenge right now. Getting people to understand. Don't be afraid of Copilot. Don't be afraid of ChatGPT. Whatever version you're using. And that's where the challenge is to this day. Having good training in place to provide to the user community, whether it be in-person training, which I experienced this past week, which is amazing, by the way. I mean, and having that face-to-face conversations with people is always a huge difference than sitting on a Teams call or Zoom call.
Imagine that. Face-to-face is better than having an LLM teach you something. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it finally woke me up to make understanding agents more. You know, I knew what they did and I knew what they were, but I didn't make the time. Now I'm going to. I'm excited. I mean, I wasn't even doing it for my show in ChatGPT. Now I have an agent set up that I didn't have before. So, but there were some good examples that I wanted to bring up. Is the fact that, let's say, get people to get stimulated as far as understanding how to use prompts and how to find out something and how to get the work you need to get done. I mean, granted, you're going to deal with companies that have problems where they're, and I'm sure you're the same, Patrice. You have systems over here, and you don't want ChatGPT, you don't want Copilot going and diving into that unless you've got you bring the level of security down to a low risk.
Yes,
and especially in the healthcare industry. So
yes,
but understanding how to use the tool to your advantage. You know, just putting spreadsheets together, bringing numbers that people need, reports. Well, this was a good. I thought this was one of the most ingenious examples using it to have people sit in a session to understand how a prompt is really going to work. Take a look at a picture. You know, let's say it's a picture of a robot cooking, and you've got a robot or you got a droid, you got somebody, you know, and he's got the chef hat on, and he's got the pots and pans, and the steam's coming off the. Take a prompt, look at that picture, and just type in a prompt, describe that picture to see if you can recreate that image based on what you tell it. Yeah. It was interesting to see how people did it, and they went through that. It's just going through how it is, and the other thing too is getting Copilot to know who you are. Keep telling it. That's what people weren't doing. They're afraid, and that's I think a lot of people who are not like us don't know how to do that. Getting the management teams in companies to get on board with this stuff is the other challenge.
And also not fall for the hype that other CEOs of certain tech companies are spinning right now, where it's like, oh, you don't need people anymore. Like you can basically fire your entire staff, and AI will do everything for you. And we know all that is not even close to realistic. But there is CEOs out there that believe that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's crazy. But you got to model it to what the company does. I'm sorry if you're hearing the noise behind me. But
no, it's fine.
You got to get people to want to use it. And
yes, it's so much fun.
It is. Oh my God!
Yeah.
How creative you can get with it, and it's not even if you're at work, you're not doing anything that's not going to be inappropriate, because as long as you're not saying something inappropriate. But you have people sitting in class and they only have the basic version. Then they see how much power Copilot has. Many of you don't have the business version of it. The work in web is just incredible. I mean, being able to search for emails, being able to go through all that stuff, and find things so much easier. But believe me, we've lived all of us many of us have lived in Outlook search forever. And,
oh yes! Oh my God!
The worst thing in the world to try find stuff. So
actually, recently Spotlight was worse, but especially in Mail.
Yeah.
But yeah, usually it's pretty bad.
Yeah, so it was a really refreshing experience, and I think companies have to get better at providing that type of training and understanding how to use AI to its best advantage. And that's why I wanted to bring it up today, because I thought for people here, I don't know what everybody has to say about this. I know, Marty, you've been pretty heavy into AI yourself. And this is something. I mean, you're gonna be talking about it at MacStock, so it's something we really got to get people to understand. That it's not just Big Brother watching. It's not. It doesn't know everything about you, but this is one of the most powerful things that we ever had in our lifetime.
Yeah, to your point, Dave, nobody's teaching people how to use it on a large scale or in a strategic fashion.
Right.
And when I get the opportunity to teach either faculty or international students, it's sort of like teaching them a process is what helps them use it appropriately and more effectively. So I'm glad you had that experience this week.
But I also think it's a different way of you have to apply a different way of teaching. You know, the old school teaching of I have slides and I stand in front of a classroom and there's people sitting there and they listen to you for 8 hours or whatever long, 3 days workshop, and then they leave and they're going to apply it. That's not how it works with LLMs. You give them, as you said, the tools, and then you start them with little tasks very practically.
Yeah, I did a 3-hour workshop this last week with international teachers. They were coming here. They are English as second language teachers, secondary teachers from their country.
Yeah.
And stopped and had them work in small teams to exercise some of the things that I had suggested, gave them the links to be able to paste in the prompts so they could do that right in the moment, and it's effective.
Yeah, and that's the advantage also of the LLMs, especially that you can literally do it right there, and they will see, oh wow, this is easy and this works, right? And that's the advantage here, right? And then you can take it from there.
Yep. And thank you for your special report on that, Dave.
Thanks. It's a good one.
Yep. And now for our headline story. We will be going to something that absolutely nobody wants to hear about, but sooner or later we were expecting. Tim Cook and Apple have confirmed to the Wall Street Journal that due to the RAM and memory shortage, which, by the way, for those who don't know, RAM and SSDs are very closely related. Apple will be raising their prices.
I think macOS Ken called it RAMnarök. So that was funny, RAMnarök. I mean, surprise, you shouldn't be, because Apple said in the last earnings call, I mean, we don't know. We have some options that we're going through, and they did, like, right, they dropped some memory options that they had, and like stopped selling certain products and said, okay, like the lower tier RAM that maybe nobody is buying or should be buying, we're just not selling anymore. We're just gonna or the higher end, like I think on the MacBook Pro they dropped some of the higher end stuff. I think on the Mac Studio as well. But we all knew, and Apple said as much, it might not be enough, or it might not be a long enough strategy. And we've reached that point. And it's also very apropos that Tim is still the one announcing it before John Turnus comes in.
Yeah, Tim's taking the hit on this. So
Yes.
so John comes in clean.
Yeah, exactly. Which is typical Apple. Like, they always like to do that. And also, it's not a press release on apple.com. They give it to a friendly outlet somewhere and do it that way.
This just feels like this is the biggest non-headline headline.
Yes.
That Apple is not magic.
No.
You know, they're dependent on, with all the discussion of Apple supply chains.
Yeah.
And you know, you would think, okay, people understand that Apple doesn't manufacture the components; they put them together.
Yep.
And yet, I don't know about you guys, but it doesn't matter where I go or what I'm buying. Prices are up everywhere.
Yeah.
And some more than others.
Yeah.
Depending
Dell has
on
already
what
done
they
it, for
are.
example, a long time ago. Samsung has already done it quite a while ago. Like, all the big companies have already done it. Apple is kind of on the tail end of that trend. They were able to hold out for longer than everybody else.
Yeah, go back a year, year and a half, and look at an SSD or a hard drive or something that you bought on Amazon.
Yeah.
Compare the price that you paid then with what you're paying now. Guess
if you
what?
can even get them.
If you can even get them, you know. And so, yeah, it's like, okay, Tim stated the grossly obvious. Congratulations. Let's talk about something interesting.
No, but let's.
Yeah.
I've got to. I have some props for Apple on this one. First of all the other businesses, all the other manufacturers just did it.
Yep.
So they're just part of the price hike that everybody has. Apple has an opportunity to say, we haven't done it at this point, but we're going to start to do it. And so that prepares people. So you have a different optic coming from Apple to their consumers that they wouldn't have got if they just raised the price. Frankly, Apple has always taken hits on prices, that Apple tax. So I think this is strategic, and I think it is optically good for Apple. And it might feel like obvious to us, but I think he wasn't speaking to us.
No, not even close.
This is 100% shareholders.
Well, shareholders and to some extent consumers, right? I mean, why is he talking about it now? There's no, as far as we know at least, no hardware release planned anytime soon. Like September, right? That's usually when it starts. Over the summer, Apple usually doesn't do hardware releases. So he's talking about it now, so that when it happens, and it might be in a month, it might be in 2 months, like, people will be complaining about it, but everybody will point to and say, well, they told us in June that they're going to do that. Yep. People will still complain because they like to.
Yeah, why Apple has been somewhat insulated from this prior to this. Apple does like huge feature buys.
Yes.
Well, at some point, those contracts have to come up.
Yeah.
And they have to be renegotiated.
Yeah. There's a term for it. Something, what was it called? Not turn-in inventory, something like that, I think it's called. That's basically the inventory they've already ordered with a fixed price and a fixed contract, and that gets then sent to the manufacturing to assemble and whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, there's also sometimes a point where companies may not be able to fulfill those fixed prices anymore because component costs have just skyrocketed so much, where they become so much at a loss for the manufacturer.
Yep.
That they just can't do it anymore. That also might be a factor here.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, even Apple might, like, yeah, you could say a contract is a contract, right? But at some point, even Apple might be like, okay, it's fine. This is an exceptional situation, and we're okay with doing this. We're okay with not fulfilling the contract as stated. It's just
Yeah.
nobody could foresee that. Like that can happen. Like, I mean, if the option is the manufacturer is not gonna be around anymore, maybe worst case scenario, versus Apple saying, okay, we're not gonna hold the price that we agreed. We're gonna add whatever a certain reasonable amount to it, but you can stay in business. Yeah, they might do that.
Yep. And the other thing here, some people might say, well, why can't you just increase production? Yeah,
Years to-
memory is a chip.
Yeah.
It takes a hell of a lot of money and effort and time
Years. It
to
takes
build,
years.
yeah, to build the kind of fabs that are required for that.
Yeah.
And by the time they get those online, you might see the shift back down again.
Yeah.
I mean, you have the point where, Samsung and all the other memory companies have to do due diligence to find out if it's in their best interest
Mhm.
to increase their capacity if they think this is going to be
Yeah.
a long-term trend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the next iPhone will be more expensive. I think we can guarantee that.
A very long-winded way of saying that.
Yep.
And we're going to get into kind of our last discussion. Our hang jury, not hung jury.
Hang jury.
Yeah, none of us will have a rope around our neck. Well, we might after this story. But this week's topic is hitting a little close to home, especially if you're listening in the EU, which for our Patrice is an EU member. Our British listeners are not, so they can say a big thank you to Brexit. At WWDC earlier this month, Apple unveiled a completely new rebuilt Siri that we may have talked about.
Yep.
A proper AI assistant that understands your context, reads your messages, knows your calendar, works across your files, and it's coming to iPhones, Macs, iPads, and who knows what else this fall. Except if you're in the EU, where you have the Europe Digital Market Act, aka the DMA, which also shares his name with the bad guy from a season of Star Trek Discovery.
That's true. Yes, I didn't even make that connection.
This should surprise nobody. Apple and the EU are not getting along over the DMA, and well, you're not getting it. China's not getting it for another set of reasons, but we won't be talking about that. So I don't think we're going to be as uniform as possible as people think on this. But, are we talking about some legitimate concerns on both sides? Or are we just talking about bureaucratic BS? Let's discuss. We'll start with the EU.
Okay, I'll start with the EU then. It's an interesting topic. I mean, I kind of thought that would be fun to discuss because there is multiple sides to that. And I mean, as an EU citizen, I understand what the EU wants to do. I'm just not sure this is the right way of doing it, which, in politics is anyway always the problem. So basically, Apple is saying, we talk to the EU, like imagine Apple as if they were a developer in their own app store. And they're like, the developer comes to Apple and says, hey, like I have this thing here, but it's breaking the rules. Can I get an extra year and a half to basically make it compliant, but ship it now? And the EU or Apple, actually the EU in this case said to Apple, no. You can ship something compliant or you don't ship it at all, which is also what Apple usually tells the developers. And the same way as and Apple handles it with their developers, you don't get any final saying, final ruling on does it follow the rules or does it break them until you actually ship it, until you're ready. It's the same thing Apple does. If you go to Apple and say, I have this really cool idea, but I'm not sure it follows the rules, and Apple says, well, good luck. Come back once you've built it and submitted it to the App Store for review, and then we'll tell you whether we actually allow it or not. And it's the same thing with the EU here. So there's a lot of finger pointing. The EU is saying, well, it's all Apple, and Apple is saying, well, it's all the EU. I think, personally, I'm kind of on the EU side. I said implementation-wise, I'm like, there's better ways of doing that. But I think having a lock-in to Apple Siri, as good as it is, hopefully, I mean, so far it's actually pretty good. I would like to have more opportunity for competition around the world to be on equal footing, because the access to data, and that's Apple's sticking point, the access to data that Apple has with their models, and Google actually, well, Google doesn't get access, but it's Google's models that are used, nobody else can get. So if let's say us together, we were to create a new AI startup company, we're going to build the best agent ever, it would not be able to do, not at all be able to do what Siri AI does, because we don't have the hooks into the system. And I think it's not, Apple's concern is data privacy, and should I don't know, OpenAI get access to your data. But I personally think that is my decision as a consumer. If I decide that I want to give my favorite AI company, let's call it Hangout AI, I want to give Hangout AI full access to all the data I have, then that should be my decision and not Apple's. That's my opinion about this.
But you can do that, Patrice. You just don't use Apple stuff, and everybody will have your data.
No, that's exactly, you can't. You wouldn't have access to the same level of information. Like, how do you get to your what is on screen on your device? How do you get to the calendars? How do you get to files that are in the system? There's so much information in your phone that you would not be able to get to, especially on a mobile device.
Right, but just use somebody else's system. I mean,
which?
If Apple's, which? I mean,
there's nothing else.
The industry has kind of dug themselves in this hole because they have shared so much information, not told us about it, not told us what they were doing, and then using it, depending on your point of view, using it against us, or at least using it for their benefit.
Yeah.
And so, if Apple's focus on privacy, if you aren't privacy focused and you don't care, then just go and buy a Windows box or some other box, use that as and then you can do anything you want with it. But, I mean, I still see this as a privacy thing. And I hear what you're saying about competition, but at the same time, okay, it just makes the competition a little tougher. But for the EU to say that some company in I don't know, Taiwan, should have the same access to my data as the people that are manufacturing and using manufacturing and developing the platform I choose. Note the word choose. No.
But
I choose Apple.
But is it a choice?
It is it's a choice for me to use Apple.
Okay, but in reality, you only have two options, right now. You have Apple and you have Google. Those are the only two options on the market, to be honest. There's really no third left.
Microsoft. And
Microsoft does not do mobile devices anymore. On mobile, you're done. Like, it's Apple or it's Google.
Okay. Well, that's fair, but that's also the market has spoken, and the market has, and so now you have a choice, and I grant you, but Android, the Android people, we laugh at them as Apple people because they are, seem to be not nearly as concerned. They seem to be okay with sharing all this stuff, and so fine, go go, all you Android people, and I really mean this, go and live your life the way you wish to live it. But why are you trying to step over here and force the rest of us to live your way?
Okay, but now I want to use Tech Hangout AI. And okay, I can't do that on Apple because Apple doesn't give me the data. Google the same way, actually. Google does not give you full access to your data either. So I have to create my own phone. What are the I mean, one, the costs and also the chances that I will be able to succeed in business with that, competing against an Apple and a Google. Like, do you think we would have any chance in hell to do that?
Probably not, but on the
Exactly.
other hand, I can name, but I can name you 5 dozen things that, that very specialty devices that, you people would be hard pressed to compete with.
Yeah.
And so, at some point, it's a cost benefit. Is my privacy worth having everybody in the world able to compete with Apple?
Yeah, but vendor login is a real thing, right? At some point, it is very hard or near impossible to switch away from.
True, but you still do have choices. Or a choice.
You do. Not using it at all, right? That is always an option.
Yeah.
Like I can be like, I'm not going to do a smartphone. Okay.
Yep.
I can do that.
You can do a burner.
But that's what the EU's argument is. They're saying both Apple and Google, both of them are under the DMA for a reason, because they're so big and so powerful that the lock-in effect that they create by their size is so strong that if nobody puts in some limits at least, it will not, there is simply no space for any kind of competition anymore. Like nobody, and it goes beyond just the hardware, right? Because this goes into the software space, this goes into AI space. Like it's basically anything you want to do that is somewhat even connected to a phone, and the phones are our life today. It's basically impossible, because if Apple does it, then everybody else is out. And that's the EU's point. As I said, I'm not agreeing with how it's implemented. But I think in this case, I think they have a point to say, if I decide as a customer that I want to give Google, for example, let's pick the other one, the other big one. I want to give Google all my data, but I want to use my iPhone, then I should be able to do so. That's my choice and not Apple's to make.
I guess I see it as just a cost benefit thing that, because you open the door for what a door is a door for everybody.
Yes, of course.
And that's where the problem is. And so what you're advocating for is you're advocating for sharing your data, my data, Ben's data, Marty's data, Dave's data, with anybody?
Because it's my choice which AI vendor I want to use. If I say I want to use OpenAI, I give them all my data, then I give them all my data. If I say I want to use Apple, then I give Apple all my data. Like it's fine. But it should be my choice, and it should be possible to make that choice. And the option right now you have is you have an iPhone, so it's Apple. If you don't want it, buy a different phone, or don't use a phone at all. That is a choice, but it's a very different choice.
Okay, I don't see it that way. I mean, because if I want to use ChatGPT on my phone, I have the option to do it through their app. And so now,
but it doesn't give the same level of access. It doesn't give the same agents. It doesn't give the same integration into photos. It doesn't, like, all the things that make it worth on the Apple side are simply not even possible. It's not that they're harder or whatever, or different or whatever. No, they're simply not possible.
We're going round and round.
Yes.
It's just it all comes down to
that's a hang jury, right? Going round and round.
Yeah, it all comes down to access.
Yes.
Somebody else try to talk some sense into Patrice. Yeah, I'm not getting anymore.
Please.
Yes. Well, I will not try to talk some sense into her, but maybe we should talk about something a little cooler, like a drop.
Let's drop something, yes.
Yes, we will drop some stuff. Like, we will literally just break stuff on air. Oh, wait, I'm hearing from our producer. It actually means we talk about things we have picked for this week.
Yes.
And you know what? Dave's items look pretty cool this week.
They do.
Let's start with him. Oh, Dave, you're muted.
Sorry, I was keeping the noise behind me. Yeah. I've always been a huge Supertramp fan, and it's a band that just is near and dear to my heart. They did the top two albums I'll ever say would be
Those
Crime of the Century
haircuts.
and the haircuts, yes. So I put two things in here. This first one, I've been in the Supertramp fans site on Facebook, and I just find it fascinating. Everybody's so into it, and so that's just how the first thing I found was this Crime of the Century. It was a live concert, and that was only a year after the album was released in 1975 at the Hammersmith Odeon, and this is the Blu-ray of it, and it's amazing. I can't believe how well they remastered it. It's an import, so I had to go through import CDs. That's the site I have as a link to get this, and they remastered the sound. The sound is like incredibly crisp for something that's 50 years old. So if you take a listen to it, I converted it off the disc, but it made it a video file. So, it's just an absolutely amazing concert, and that is one of their best albums ever. And I got that to do. And then this other thing was a book, and this is an insanely huge book. Look at this thing. It's 600 pages of nothing about
that looks
Supertramp.
like a Tom Clancy novel.
Yeah. So, this guy, his name is Abel Fuentes, and he was in that group on Facebook, and he was talking about it. And he was trying to sell it to people, and then he sells it on Amazon, which was great. Anything I ever want to know about it as Supertramp is in this book, including the discography and all the videos that have been released, and each individual, the band members who they've had. So, and I just been getting in the car and cranking up Dreamer and Give It a Little Bit, and some of the other songs that made Supertramp well famous. And I thought both these, it's kind of a nice package here if you like Supertramp.
Yeah. Hey, it's only logical.
Logical song, yes.
Yes.
And sad, sad with the history between Roger Hodgson and Rick Davies, and of course Rick Davies just passed away not too long ago. So, but they live in history of being a great prog rock band.
That is great. So Chuck, what do we got from you today?
This is something I've recommended on and off. But Guy Kawasaki's Remarkable People podcast is one that is absolutely one of my favorites. And it's because it makes me think, it makes me see things maybe a little bit differently than my current perception. And I'm talking about tech, I'm talking about social issues, I'm talking about financial issues, I'm talking about a lot of things. And so if you don't want your current state of mind challenged, then don't listen to it. But if you're open to at least hearing some of the other sides, doesn't mean I'm going to agree with everything that the guests say. But Guy has this knack of finding these people who really do. They're thinkers. A lot of times they're authors. There've been a lot of books written by a lot of the folks he interviews, but it's just a quality conversation. And Guy's not afraid of calling them out, and they're not kind of afraid of pushing back on Guy either. And I really like that. And in case for those of you who may not have been around then, Guy Kawasaki was Apple's marketing and evangelist genius way back when Apple was just getting off the ground. So he has that Apple credibility. Steve Jobs' name comes up frequently on the show because Guy, passes a lot of things through certain Steve Jobs filters. I can't encourage you enough. If you are looking for one more really high quality listen, this is it.
Yeah, it is a remarkable podcast in the literal sense.
Yeah,
I really love it.
Yep, fantastic voice in the tech community. I haven't listened to his podcast, but I definitely will if I ever find this thing called time.
Yeah. He was, by the way, also giving away a book, basically. Like everybody has something to hide about Signal, using how to use Signal. And stuff like that. Like he is really good.
Yeah. Well, next we'll go to a person that has nothing to hide, for better or worse. Marty, tell me about this one.
Well, I was in a meeting before we are going to do this. And so at the last minute, I rushed around. I didn't rush around. I looked at what is on my crowded desk, and this is the Cardia Mobile 6-lead Max. And it is about the size of a stick of gum or a couple of sticks of gum.
Yeah.
You might have seen this advertised on television. They have a 2-lead version for like $80. I recommend getting the 6-lead version. You take it, you place it on your knee, you put your 2 fingers on it, and you've got 6 leads of a read for your heart rate and all sorts of symptoms and all sorts of things. It is really kind of cool. The reason it's on my desk is because over the years I've been dealing with various cardiac issues, AFib, ablation, and now I've got some buildup of edema, and so they're switching some meds to help with that, and that seems to be working. But I need to keep track of this because it's helpful for the doctor to make sure that it's not switching me back into AFib and other things like that. So if you know somebody or if you yourself have a heart condition, this is really a good investment. And the reason I say 6-lead is because 6-lead gives you a lot of information, or gives your physician a lot of information in terms of like ventricles firing quicker. And you don't get that from the 2-lead. And it's it's $150 for the 6-lead version, but it's really remarkable. You can just drop it in your pocket and take it with your phone, and you can use it anywhere. So if I feel a little dizzy or feel like feeling my heart racing or anything like that, I can quickly do a lead, which can be as part of the service. They can analyze it for you, get back to you right away, and let you know what you think is going on. Or you can also send it on to your physician. So
Very cool.
it's really kind of a remarkable little device. I know I've either mentioned it on Chuck's show or his Christmas show, or maybe on the British Tech Network, but this is in front of me today for this reason, so that's why I thought I'd mention it again.
Yep. And Marty, does this have integration with Apple Health?
Yeah, it does.
Nice.
Yeah, it really is kind of a nice little system.
That is fantastic. I might get one. And now for a product that, looking at the description, I have no idea how the hell this even works. Patrice, tell us about a plant fitness tracker.
Yeah, like Marty brought their health, and I'm gonna go with fitness trackers for plants. So for plants, yeah. It's the company is called Fita. I don't know. Fita. I don't know. It's a German company from Berlin, actually, and it is literally a fitness tracker for plants. So they have those little devices that you stick in your potted plants, or you can even, there's some for your garden that you can literally even bury in your garden, and it has a mesh network, and it connects to your Wi-Fi and whatever. There's like a Wi-Fi bridge as well, and then they have, and I'm trying to show that on screen, but for the people listening, they have a really, really good app. So it measures moisture, it measures nutrition, it measures light level, it measures temperature. It can even do air humidity. If you have one of the devices that measures that, and you put in your plants into the app and connect them with it, or link them with the tracker basically that you have, and I have for each plant one, and then it will tell you when is it too much water, not enough water, does it need to get do you need to do anything with them, give them more light, less light, Is it too hot? Like all of that, and it will ping you. For me, the thing is, I might be an ADHD thing. I constantly either overwater or underwater my plants. So they're either like dying because I didn't give them water, or they're dying and then there's a monsoon and then they basically die because they have so much water that they can't breathe anymore. So I kill plants all the time because of that. Because as I said, I go from the two extremes, like no water at all for weeks, and then oh shit, I forgot, and then they get so much because I think I can make up for that, that they die. So with this, I'm finally able to see, like, okay, I should, and it pings me, like I get a notification, it's like, hey, it's probably time, like the moisture level is down to 30%. Hey, you should probably give it some water, or it's time to repot, which is the other thing I never do because I always forget, like, when should I repot? It tells you that. And the onboarding is super easy. It's like a really great app, super easy to use, super easy to connect the devices to. It literally take like 3 seconds to connect and stick them in, and that's it. It recognizes the plan. So like the other part, like a lot of people like me have the problem is like, what the hell was that plant again? I don't remember. It's like, it was something like this, or maybe it was that. I don't remember. I bought them like whatever 3 years ago. It does like AI-based recognition. So you just take, I think, 2 or 3 pictures of like the plant, and it will be like, hey, it's whatever, 90% it's this, or 80% it's that, and you're like, I think it looks, and you get the pictures from like, this is how the plants usually look like, and you're like, I think it's this one. And stuff like that. So it's a really good app. I had contact with the support. There was like one of the devices had a fault. I just marked it in the app and said, this is not working, because they have a little test that you can do to determine if it's working properly. I had an email the next morning. It's like, oh, by the way, yeah, we saw that this wasn't working and we sent you a new one. So that was really cool. And I got it like a day later. So like it wasn't even a big deal. And I was like, yeah, whatever. They were really nice. So good company, nice app, and it's a fitness tracker for your plants.
I am thinking the possibility here of cult psychology, that you could put these things in and you could bring them down to the point where they're about not to survive, and then bring them back up. And
You could
cycle through that, and eventually you will have a whole cult of plants that are dependent on you.
Yes. And they also would survive anything at this point, probably.
Yeah. Well, Feed Me Seymour has now become Exercise Me Patrice.
Yes.
Seymour.
Yes.
Well, I will end this little show and tell with my own. Tonight, I am finally entering one of Apple's ecosystems with my brand new iPad Mini 7. If anybody doesn't know what that is like an iPad, only smaller.
Or iPhone, only bigger.
Yes, yeah. Which is why I'm getting that at the full size. Yeah, theoretically does not work well with a full-size keyboard, but works really well as an e-reader.
It does.
Yeah.
Or as an electronic flight bag if you're a pilot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, technically this is my second iPad, because I briefly had the iPad Air 4 until my mom stole it.
Okay.
But yeah, e-reading. This will also be used primarily to monitor social media during this show and others. I thought it was about time.
Yeah.
And I got a really good price on it, especially after that $200 gift card with my new Amazon card.
Very cool.
With that, yes. With that, it is a nice time to get out of here. But first, we have to ask these fine people where we can find them. So Marty, where can we find you in your 6,432 podcasts?
Just go to thepodtalk.net, the website that has the 6,000. How many did you say I have now?
432.
6,432.
And the ones that I am lucky enough to be on, like Mac Voices and also Dave's In Touch with iOS, and of course this one. I have to change the link from what was the British Tech Network to this now. So I'll have to edit the website and do that. But go to the podtalk.net. You'll find out about Neo Notebook, Vision Profiles, the Old Mac Gang, and 15-minute Bites, and Fade to Chat, and those kind of podcasts that I'm involved with. You can find me at Gencius, Jencios, on all the socials.
Ooh, I thought Marty listing off all his podcasts was going to take longer than the rest of the show. Yep. And I might get sued for this reference on podcasts where there could be only one. Immortal Chuck Joyner, where can we find you?
Wow, immortal. Gee, thank you. I think. You can find me at macvoices.com. That's where we talk about a lot of different things. Right now, believe it or not, there's still NAB interviews that are coming out. We're doing the Road to MacStock, and I've got interviews lined up with developers. I've got a lot of other plans, so check it all out at macvoices.com. The live show is Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. And you can find me on all the socials as at Chuck Joyner. Thanks, Ben.
It's been a pleasure having you, Chuck. And Dave, tell us about your show and where we can find you.
Yeah, you can find me at In Touch with iOS, intouchwithios.com, YouTube channel, youtube.com/intouchwithios. Neo Notebook on Sundays, Vision Profiles on Mondays, Tuesdays on Mac Voices Live with Chuck and the crew. Thursdays we record In Touch with iOS here on Tech Hangout on Friday mornings, and Blue Sky Mastodons at Dave G65.
And let's get to our engineer, sometimes host, and founder of this iteration of the Tech Hangout. Patrice, where can we find you?
I might have found the original as well. If you can find me every week here and everything I'm doing on my website, thepatrice.com, projects, podcasts, social media links, all of that. And with Jeff on Retro Rewatch. We rewatch retro TV shows, mostly right now Stargate SG-1. And we're towards the end of season 4 of Stargate SG-1. And there's some really cool episodes still coming, and also some clunkers. So yeah, look forward to that. So techhangout.com is the website for this one, and the retrorewatch.com for Retro Rewatch.
Yeah, we did do a Chuck episode, right?
We did do a Chuck episode. It's not out yet.
It's not
Shh.
out. Oh.
Shh.
You did an episode only on Chuck? That's kind of weird.
Yes, we did an episode about
yeah.
Chuck. Yes, exactly.
Well, I am Ben Rathig. You can find me at Ben Rathig on your social media of choice. You can also find me very occasionally, like very rarely anymore, writing at rathigtech.com, and maybe on some of these ladies and gentlemen's fine shows. With that, thank you for watching the second episode of the Tech Hangout. Let's get out of here.